Hey, Mike.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Living the life. Just kidding. Well, just
you're
barely living.
you're in a new home.
I am in a new home. This is my home in Dallas, my new apartment. So everything smells pretty new, I guess.
I really wanted to talk to you sort of about like the future of what you do and what I do, but I think to get there, let's sort of talk about the past a little bit. How did you begin your sort of like food travel? Like, what do you say you do when you describe it to
Well,
people?
basically, I say I eat for a living. Obviously, it's
Ugh.
more complex than that, but in essence, that's what we all do, right? We're eating for a living and um, trying not to turn into a dumpling extra early in life. That's basically it.
But so how did you get started in that?
Well, it never. This was never a goal, of
Yeah.
course, because if I ever went to my Asian parents and was like, "I'm going to go be a food YouTuber," I think I wouldn't be alive today. So it was never. I never thought this was anything I was ever going to do, let alone professionally. I didn't even know I was going to do this for fun. But when YouTube first came out, obviously, a lot of people jump on the bandwagon. I did not. So it wasn't until later because I was doing things. I was working for a nonprofit, and we're talking mainly about human rights issues. We're doing projects trying to bring human rights issues that was happening in China to light in the West. That's predominantly what I was doing. So I was working as a wedding videographer because nonprofit, literally, there's no profit, there's no money. So I was doing that and making like $200 a week, two to $400 a week, living in a basement in Brooklyn. And we were doing YouTube mainly to kind of talk about the human rights stuff. And then we started doing stuff about Chinese traditional culture, which is something else I've been passionate about. And the food just was a joke. It was like I was just in Vegas, and because I love Vegas, I was there just eating, and I was like, you know what? Let me try to record myself on an iPhone 4, which I'm sure nobody will care about and nobody would ever watch. So I did it, and I think I had a tiny little channel at the time, and I posted it up there, and I mean that wasn't something that blew up, but at the end of the day, I think that thing had like 1.7 million views or something. Um, and even for months after that, I didn't think this was a viable option because nobody really watched food content back then. I think back then it was more
Yeah. What year
sketch
was this?
comedy. I think this was 8 years ago. So, what, like,
2013 something?
yeah, something like 2013, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone's just doing comedy. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
comedy. They were doing,
And it was
um,
like big character stuff. It wasn't like real people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So back then it was, the Francos and the Nigga Higgas and these guys, and even our first channel when we started was Off the Great Wall. It was a comedy channel, comedy cultural channel. It wasn't nothing about food. So it wasn't. I think food wasn't big until about 2015 ish or around there.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
for a while, I was filming these videos and nobody was watching them, and I was okay with that because I was just having fun eating.
Was it on a separate channel at that point?
It was on Strictly Dumpling.
Okay. Okay.
And I remember the first video I uploaded on Strictly Dumpling was a video about dragons. It wasn't even about food. It was just about Chinese dragons because I was like, yo, Chinese dragons are cool. Let me do a video about that. I just called it Strictly Dumpling because I like dumplings, and I was eating like exclusively cheap dumplings because they were cheap. You can buy like a bag of 80 for like $10 or something like that at the time. The channel was supposed to be nothing about food. So I guess luck is also a big part of this whole business.
Was there just like doing it consistently because you loved it? Was there one video that popped off and you're like, oh, maybe this is more the direction to go into?
No, it
Okay.
was purely because I was just doing it for fun. Like, I mean, if you watch the super early videos, it was just filmed on an iPhone. And I remember one time I was filming a video at like a Korean pub. The music was blasting Taylor Swift. I couldn't even hear myself think. and it was dark in there. There was no lights in there. And I still filmed the video on my iPhone exclusively with no sub mic. It was just on the iPhone mic, which was horrendous. So I just did it for fun. I was like, I'm just gonna do a food diary of what I'm eating. If people watch it, great. If they don't watch it, whatever. I remember even having a conversation with one of my business partners at the time. I'm like, they were like, "Yeah, what should we focus on?" I'm like, "Don't." They're like, "How about food?" I'm like, "Nah, no one's gonna watch that. No one will watch food."
Was there like an inspiration behind what you were doing, or was it literally just like, well, I'm here eating, I'm just gonna be myself? Was there any thought behind like, I like watching this person, I like doing this, or whether it's TV or in your life or someone else in social?
No, like the at the time, I think the only thing that was on TV even it was the OGs. It was the Adam Richmans and the
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Zimmers. That those were the
Yeah.
only food shows. They were. It wasn't like today. It was like every network has 20 food shows. So I mean, you watch a lot of Man versus Food and stuff, but like I was just eating a lot, and then I was like, I don't know, just might as well film stuff I'm eating. And the first time, like I said, I was in Vegas, and I was pretty sure everyone was gonna hate on me for it because it didn't look good. It didn't, the quality was horrible, audio was horrible. So it was just me eating stuff. At the time, I had another channel that gotten pretty big. It was called Beyond Science, and that was what I was prioritizing. So the food thing was just for fun.
Was there a moment then when you're like, this is it?
There wasn't a eureka moment.
Okay.
There wasn't like a video that sort of skyrocketed. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, I think at some point it just became consistent. Like, it
Yeah.
was consistently horrible for a while. Like nobody watched it. And then it
Uh-huh.
was consistently slightly better.
Okay.
And then it was just consistently. And then all of a sudden, like it was like, oh, cool. This is there's a certain number of people that likes this stuff every single time I upload. And then eventually grew into it. It was definitely like my Beyond Science channel was something that happened like some video went super viral overnight, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's. The iron is hot right now, but that wasn't the case with the food stuff.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny. I look at my own YouTube page. So my YouTube predates everything I've ever done online. I've had that forever. It's like I've reformatted it here and there, whatever, whatever. And it's it's a big struggle. Like, what do you think, besides being early, because you were early, but like, what do you think it is about your videos that people just die over? They love them.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I mean, I, to me, people ask me this question, and I still find it a mystery because, like, I hate like when the video is ready for review, because nowadays I've help editing videos. I don't do it myself anymore. It's so cringy for me. I'm just watching it. I'm like, who will watch this? Like, this is just some random dude just eating stuff in his face. Like, it's horrible. Like, why would I don't know? I don't understand why people are watching. I mean, I'm glad people are watching it and enjoying it. But I'm just watching like,
You know what? I will tell, if you don't have an answer, I will tell you why. It's because you are so excited about everything you're eating that it makes me excited to watch it. Like when I'm on camera and I'm trying to do a camera in my brain, I'm trying to be like, how would Mikey say this? How would he be excited about this dish? Because it's effervescent. It comes through the phone or the TV or whatever they're watching. Like they truly feel like they're eating with you because of how excited you are about it. I mean, I think that's it more than anything.
well, you humble me, sir. Thank you so much for saying that. And I mean, I guess I don't know, but I do feel excited like when I see food. I mean, especially
Well, that's
food
the two.
that
It's not fake. It's not
oh no,
fake.
no,
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
starving. I am like, especially if usually it's the first meal of the video. I'm just so ready to I'm ready to go. I've been hungry for 10 hours or whatever it is, and it's especially foods that I never tried before or that I've heard a lot about that I've been anticipating. It's just stuff that I'm so excited to be around. Maybe that's why I don't have many friends. I just kind of like eat all day and surrounding myself with food.
That's my excuse.
Yeah, right.
uh, I think it's interesting too because like you started so early, but then as like the food genre was taken off online, which was when then I sort of ended up in it. It was very food focused. It was very
Yeah.
BuzzFeedy stuff, all hands food, no
hmm
personality. Where like yours has always been personality. So when it sort of came back around, you were primed and ready for people were like over that shit, which they got over quickly, which I understand. And then they're like, oh wow, here's this account that we love anyway. And ooh, it is, yeah, the cover photo might be whatever you're eating and it's so gigantic, but the video is your view on it, your experience on it. I think like you were so set up so well for when it sort of swung back around.
Well, okay, so this is something I never talked about, but so if you watch the beginning videos, it's like 90% talk, like 90% of my face, and
Uh-huh.
just 10% of the shots of the food. Like at that time, I was just like, you know what? I'm just talking. I just want to talk. Like I don't even. And then some comments will be like, people are like, show more of the food. I'm like, nah, you don't need that. You can just look at my face. Just stare at me talking. That's what you need. Because at the time, like I wasn't trying to like entice people with quote unquote food porn or whatever
hmm
the term is nowadays. I was just like excited to eat food. And I was just like, let's just talk about it nonstop. And I didn't try to take better footage. And I'm not really artistic, so I'm not really good at getting those it shots like you see on BuzzFeed and all these things. Um, so I do I do feel really humbled. People still watched it, even though I'm watching. Like I was about to do uh, like a rewatch of my first video. I'm just like, I'm scanning through. I'm like, I really didn't film much of the food. It's just my stupid face. Um, but yeah, so I am kind of happy. People actually enjoy watching it.
So then you end up, I mean, you travel all over the world. Is there like a place you are like still pinching yourself you were able to get to because of this?
Um, Pakistan was a
Oh,
trip that I went in with a lot of preconceived notions about, and it was the hardest trip to set up because you can't just go to Pakistan. Like
yeah.
you can't do it. You not only for you to even get a visa, you need to have someone sponsoring you inside, and that's gonna be with you like all the time.
hmm
So like it's just almost like so hard to get in. And of course, like when I'm going in, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, be careful, this and that," and I'm like, "Oh okay." So I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect. I get in there, and it's the most incredible place. Like I think it's one of the most memorable trips I've taken in my life, just because of how friendly everybody was and how beautiful everything was. And I didn't realize I learned so much. Like I didn't know um, there were thousands of Buddhist monasteries in Pakistan and ruins, and it's such an incredibly diverse, like scenery everywhere you go. We went from snowy mountains to, I think, yeah, we climbed a 1,000-year-old Buddhist temple, and we went into mosques. It was just such a mind blowing experience, and it's again, this is why I tell people that before you go anywhere, yeah, do your research. Don't be naive about it. There are dangers in the world. Do not be naive about that. But at the same time, don't hold on to so like preconceived notions or any ideas that you might have about a place, because nobody's 100% right when they write anything, because that's just their perspective. So you're reading other people's perspective, which you should do, but at the same time, take all the precaution you need to, do all the planning you need to, preparation, but go in there with an open mind and just enjoy it from your own perspective.
Yeah, totally. So you're traveling all around, and then
Well, I was,
2020.
yes, I
Well,
was.
you was. That's what I mean. So, well, that's
Yes,
what I'm saying. So 2020 happened. So where were you when sort of like shit hit the fan? I guess.
I was in Seattle on my way to Taiwan and Japan.
Mm,
So at the end of 2000 or 2019, or was it 2000? Yeah,
yeah.
2019. So I did one last trip to Taiwan, and then I went to Japan because I was going on a tour. It was a really magnificent tour. There was a guide over there. His name escapes me for a moment. He took me to eat with geishas and took me to eat um, this fish that tastes like a watermelon. Is crazy stuff. So we did that, and then my bucket list item has always been to ski in Japan. So me and a couple of friends went back and skied in Japan, and that was February of 2020. So that was when things are really, starting to vamp up, and it was starting to get bad in Asia.
Yeah.
And everyone in the states were like, "Yo, you got to get back here before it kills off Asia. Like it's just like it's getting really bad over there." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, I got to get back." So I get back, and of course, then it hits the states hard, and Asia's like, "Fine." Um, and then I was actually trying to get into Taiwan. I was like, this was probably, I think, whenever Taiwan stopped letting people in, my plane ticket was 2 days after that.
Okay.
So I was trying to get into Taiwan. I was like, let me get back to Taiwan because at the time Taiwan was doing great. And I was like, let me get back to Taiwan and I'll just stay there and just because at the time nobody knew what was going on. Everyone was kind of like just so
Mm.
confused about where to go, where's the best place to kind of wait this out, and nobody thought it was ever going to be a year or more than a year. Nobody
No,
thought that. Everyone
no,
thought it was like
not at
several
all.
weeks,
Yeah.
a month, or whatever. So I'm like, let me just go and hide out for like a month. So at the time, I was like, let me just go hide out in Taiwan for a couple of months and weather the storm. But I didn't end up going to Taiwan because it just didn't work out. I had a show I needed to work on with Complex, and so I had to come back for that. And then I came back to Seattle, and that's when everything hit. And then I was in
And
my
Seattle was
apartment.
like the first place in America to get hit hard too.
Oh, it
It
got
was
hit
like Seattle, New
hard.
York. Yeah.
Yeah, I got hit so hard, and nobody was allowed to go out. And
Hmm.
I basically stayed in my little apartment for the next half a year. Just
Hmm.
like everybody else, would just stay there. And of course, you go out and grab groceries and whatever. So that's when I started doing more grocery store stuff because there was nothing else to do. What are you going to do? Everything's
Yeah.
closed. Everything is you can't go anywhere. You're not supposed to even like really travel around. But yeah, that was obviously extremely impactful for people in our industry, and of course, of course, everybody was
Hmm.
impacted. But yeah,
So, what was your thoughts like beyond the safety and actual sides of that, like content wise? Were you thinking like, because I know in my own brain, I was like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, I did some cooking stuff and I ordered in and
yeah,
do what I can. But like, at the end of the day, I kept explaining to people when I started sort of really getting back into it, I would just like, I just missed doing what I love, and what I love was traveling and eating, and all the other stuff is cool, and it gave me content, and my audience is generally happy with it. But I don't know if I was super happy with it.
yeah. I mean, at the time, I didn't know anything. At the time, I was like, maybe this is a good time for a hiatus. Like, I have no
Yeah.
idea. But I've always wanted to do a cooking show. I've been doing a cooking show, and I just never had time to focus on a cooking show. So I'm like, well, maybe this is a good opportunity to just focus on my cooking show. So that's actually what I'm planning to do more of as soon as I can get into Canada because the person I wanted to work on this with is in Canada. So I can't get in right now, but I wanted to do more cooking stuff anyway. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just travel
Okay.
less and just cook more. I'm very happy with that. I love cooking. Um, but at the time, like you still really didn't know anything. So luckily I had a library because right before then was I was filming nonstop and I was filming nonstop, traveling nonstop. So when COVID hit, I still had like a library of 40 some videos that I could
Oh, shit.
slowly, just kind of let it publish. So that's why people are like, oh, you got a library. Yeah, I had a library full of videos. So I was kind of lucky. And then that lasted me like a long, long time. And then by the time that ran out, like people were starting to venture out again. And then I realized, oh my gosh, like the small business community has been tremendously impacted and people are losing their homes and businesses. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So I'm like, yo, I should really try to go out, even though like I'm paranoid to this day of COVID because I have friends who caught it and couldn't taste for months, and I'm like, geez, like I can't. What's that
Hmm.
going to do to me? And I was, but I was like, okay, yeah, let me try to go out and reach out to some of these small businesses and help any way I can, which is bring exposure to them if I can. So ventured out and started doing that. Maybe I think 6 months into the whole thing, uh, and then slowly, I guess people got braver, and things opened up more, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I ended up doing too. We're just like, well, okay, like these places are struggling. I have this platform. This is what I like doing anyway. How do I safely approach this? And as things got easier, it was better over the winter. It got harder again, but sort of like now
Right,
at least back in a
right.
place where I went to Austin. That was my first like actual thing, and it wasn't like, oh, Austin's more open. It was honestly almost more closed than New York was, but New York have just hit with such a brutal winter. I just like I needed to be able to be outside and film, and I went there and sort of got 2 months worth of content to get me through the rest of the winter
How
and
long
came
were
back
you in
here.
Austin?
I was only there for 5 days, but I just went hard,
You did two
hard.
months of content in 5 days. Oh my gosh.
Well, my content I've been stretching out a lot. Probably realistically more like 1 month, but I've been sort of like I got into the habit of posting a little
Sure,
less,
sure.
mostly
So you
because of
and you
COVID
were you
stuff.
were in
So
New York for the whole thing until
I didn't go.
Austin.
I didn't
Wow.
go anywhere else because I was just like, I don't know where I'm going to go that makes sense. Like I kept thinking LA, and then LA got hit harder than anywhere, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I didn't want to go to a place where A, I would feel uncomfortable, and two, promote a place that I didn't want people to go to. Honestly, like Miami is fully open. I don't feel comfortable putting out content of a place that is unsafe. Honestly,
Right, right.
so
Yeah.
it became a struggle. So obviously, there's a lot to do in New York, but it was freezing and it was snowing and
Yeah.
places were closed and blah, blah, and it just like everything kept getting in the way.
Oh my
So yeah,
gosh. I
Austin was like
know.
my first thing.
It was crazy because when I got back to New York, I think I came back I think I come back like September or October because I haven't seen my parents at
Which
that
is
point
okay.
for a long time. And I remember walking through Chinatown and I'm like, there's nobody here. I was like, nobody here. I'm like, where are the people? And it was just
And that
crazy.
was by September, October, it was way better. Like I would go on runs
Hmm.
in, April, May, whatever. So I live in Williamsburg. I'd run across the river to, up the East River Park and back. I would get into Manhattan, not see one person, not see one car, not see one person, which is the oddest experience. But yeah, even by September, October, where things more open up, people around, it's just without tourists,
Right.
it's nothing. There's that's what fills up the streets normally.
Oh yeah, it's heartbreaking because you see things. Everyone had a sign, like oh, temporarily closed, blah blah blah, this and that. I'm just like, wow. And you see new things popping up because you're like, well, what was there before? Because something must have closed down for something new to pop up. So it was just a crazy, heartbreaking experience because my parents owned a small Chinese restaurant, for my whole life. We ran a Chinese restaurant. That's what we did. So I can't imagine if all of a sudden one day just no customers. Like, what the hell do you do? Like, this is your life. Like,
And you
it's
know
crazy to
what
think about.
what sucks is that specifically Chinatown got hit earlier than most places because people just started refusing to go to Chinatown before things
Right.
shut down, which was even worse. Now, as a whole, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, should we have been going out at all? Probably not. But the idea of Chinatown being the epicenter of something was the most ridiculous shit ever. And
Right.
wherever every other restaurant in New York City at least got 2 more weeks out of it, they lost all their customers those couple weeks earlier, which just hit them even worse, which is
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I've been trying to actually go around to two Chinatowns around the country, and it's still bad. Like it's businesses are up a bit, but then now you got the attacks and stuff. It's just like you can't catch a break.
No. Um, well, so I did kind of get into more now moving forward because this is something I think about a lot and people ask me a lot, and I'm sort of like looking at, okay, the world's opening back up. I'm now double vaxxed and like ready to go.
Mhm.
Like, do you think there's going to be a thirst for food travel content because people are like dying to get back out there? Do you think there's still a lot of hesitancy? Like, have you started getting people reaching out already, being like, hey, when are you getting back out here? Like, let's do international. Let's do this. What's it like? What's your plan moving forward?
Well, like before, there would be a lot of governments who would reach out and be like,
Right.
come to our country. I haven't got a single one of those yet.
Okay.
That has definitely not picked up because international travel is still very much not where it was. So that is pretty much out of the picture. Like I went and spent 3 months in South Korea just because it got to the point where I just things were so bad here that I just needed to get away for a bit. And I mean, I'm sure like everybody, I felt my own mental health just
Hmm.
dropping. Um, and South Korea at the time was doing really good. They were what like 30 cases a day, 20 cases a day, were doing really good. So just the anxiety and I it was crazy because like during the times I was in my apartment, like I never had an anxiety attack before. I was getting constant anxiety attacks where like I didn't know whether I caught COVID or I just like had problem
Oh.
breathing. Like I don't know if you went through this. Like
Hmm.
I was just like,
Yep.
do I have COVID? Like
I would
I
cough. I
problem.
would cough and be like, oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah. So and at the time you couldn't really get tested either. There's like no tests available.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just like sitting there just sweating. Uh, and so that kind of led me to a point where I'm like, yo, I gotta get out of here. I need to just not be here. But that's a side note. But like nowadays, yeah, nothing is really open. So I think the U.S. within the U.S. is probably the most open it's going to be. I mean, most open, and it has been in forever. So
Yeah.
there are people who want to see the food content. Of course, everybody wants to see food content because they travel. Doing what we do, people travel vicariously through us, or eat vicariously through us, and they still want to see that to have a some sort of normalcy on their screen, which is something I feel like it's really important for people like us, people like entertainment, to kind of put out still positive, engaging, good content for people to watch, so they don't have to think about all this craziness at least for a little bit. But in terms of international travel, no, it's not anywhere close to where it was, and I'm not sure even in the near future. I'm talking about next several months. I'm not sure it's going to get any better. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm thinking end of the year, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah, I got an invite for an international thing
Oh,
actually for
did you?
June, and I'm like my manager's dealing with it, but I got a sense of it was like, I mean, ask away. Do they really want me coming? It seems okay. I mean, like I said, I'm good, so if they're comfortable with it, but I'm like, let's ask all the questions because I'm concerned about this.
Can you tell us which country?
Turkey.
Turkey. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, it's another email with maybe odds are
Beautiful
nothing ever
place. I
happens
mean,
with it, but
if it's safe, I mean, I'm sure you'll have a blast. It was such a beautiful place.
I've
Food
never
is
been. Yeah,
tremendous.
I really haven't done a lot of international stuff. I traveled when I was working in TV. I traveled a ton domestically, so I've been
Mhm.
all over America. But international wise, it's been Australia a few times, and Japan and Israel and Italy years and years and years ago. It really hasn't been that much. So I had a lot of trips plans for last year that all got canceled.
Didn't we all? Yep.
I mean, so the past year or two, like we've sort of seen like the rise of like the TikTok food
Mhm.
creator. What's your thoughts on that platform and sort of those kids taking off? The
I'm
new
happy
new
for
Gen
them.
Z. Yeah.
I don't watch TikTok. I'll be honest. I haven't really
Okay.
seen much of the stuff. Like people will send me stuff. You're like, look at this hack or whatever the heck. That's the extent of it. I don't watch it. I went to before this all happened. I was invited to an awards show, and this was in Prague, and I went there, and it was my first experience meeting TikTokers. Is that what they're called? TikTokers? I don't know.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So and then I mean I hear about them in the award show. They're like, oh, this person 50 million followers. I'm like, whoa, this is this is crazy stuff, crazy numbers. Because like in YouTube, you have over you know 10 million. It's pretty astronomical already.
Hmm.
Over there, it's like 50 million, 60 million, like whatever. So I haven't really got a sense of exactly what they're doing. But I mean, hey, look, each new generation, regardless of your age, if you're getting into food, getting into cooking, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I appreciate a lot of it. I think there's a lot of cool stuff. It takes a little bit of digging, unfortunately,
Hmm.
but once you dig, their algorithm is insane. But it is interesting, just like the I just kind of wish that it's, I mean, this is like an old man rant, but it's like, you guys know that you get to get paid because of like the work I did for you, right? And it's just like no appreciation for what has come before. And this is too old. People are like, shut the fuck up. But I do sort of feel that way. If like, I'm glad for the success and they're bringing
Right.
up the entire industry and it's amazing. But I'm like, I went through a lot of shit so you could do this. I'm just saying I'm happy to help. Like, reach
Sure.
out to me, ask me questions, make sure you're getting your rate. Like, don't get like, there's a lot of resources for you here. Don't think because today you have 1 million followers, people are going to care about you tomorrow, kind of thing. Like,
Sure.
be part of this industry as a whole, I think is really important. I think that's missing a little bit, but they're also goddamn 17 years old. So of course
Yeah.
they're going to act that
Oh
way.
yeah, yeah. That, don't remind me. Yeah, it's a downward slope from here.
Oh, so you said you're not editing your videos anymore. What's your team situation like? What is your process?
Well, I have a couple editors. They work on all the video edits. And I used to do all my video edits, but then I realized I'm not very good at this stuff. So it doesn't look good, and it's just too much work. Like you'll sit there and you'll comb through videos, and editing is the longest
Mm-hmm.
task in this entire process, at least for me. So it would take me like at least a day to comb through the footage, get all the stuff put together. It's just so exhausting. Like there's no way for me to do that if I want to continue to film as many videos as I've been doing. So we got people working on that. That's about it. That's like my team's not big. It's just a couple people and just editors. Like everything else, I do all the research and yeah, just planning stuff. I'm a horrible planner, so sometimes I just show up in the country and I'm just like, where should I go? Local suggestions, please. So yeah, I'm really bad. I really feel like I need somebody who's more attention to detail than me.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what I'm going through now. Like I need to hire someone for all those reasons. I tell everyone like I make the same joke like what do you do while you eat, but it's like truly the eating is very very tiny. It's the editing
Right.
that takes forever. So it's a process to try and find. So because I also feel like I am trying to find someone to help me shoot and be a
Yes.
producer. Just the exact same reason. I'm the same way. Like when I'm traveling, I'll have a list of some things I want to do because I'll get in the kitchen. So I'll have like a few places like really set up. But then it's just like I get there and I'm like, oh, let me feel it out. Maybe I don't want that here. And let me see what the people like. Let me just get a sense of everything. Um, well, I guess in general, what like are your goals next? You have like set things social wise to hit or do numbers, places to go? Do you have like outside projects you want to more focus on?
I never have like a number go. Like I
Yeah,
think at this point, if you're a YouTuber, like honestly, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. You are.
every
There's
platform. Yeah.
yeah, it's not something you can really control. Like I want to gain a million subscribers. Like it's really hard to say that and just formulate some sort of strategy to make that happen. So whoever is watching my videos, I'm just going to remain grateful and glad people are still watching. Whatever that result might be, I'm okay with it. I am moving more towards brick and mortar stores and products. So I got I got the hot oil launched, and we're doing a ramen place in Flushing. I think we're just waiting
Ooh.
for Con Edison to plug in the gas. So
Okay.
as soon as that happens, we're ready to get that launched. So that's probably going to be in a month or two at most. We got a barbecue place, Korean barbecue place, opening up here in Houston, Texas. And then after that, like I'm working on this huge project. I can't really talk about it yet, but if it actually happens, it will be pretty big. Um, I can say it involves dumplings. That's about as much as I can say.
Okay.
But I want to move more towards that. I want to like because
Hmm.
I've been um, to a lot of places. Like there's foods I love, and there's foods I feel like is not really available to people that I want to bring to people. Obviously, there's ramen shops everywhere, but we're gonna we had our chef working with our chef. We created this wagyu ramen, and I know there's a couple wagyu ramen places, but this wagyu ramen I just tasted it was freaking mind blowing. Even if I was just reviewing it, if I just went into a random place they had this, I'd be just mind blown by this dish. So I'm very excited to get like these kind of creations out where I can kind of sit with the chef and be like, you know what would be really good is let's do this. Let's stuff a wagyu in this cheeseburger or something. Like, I don't know, something crazy. I want to do that, and then if it tastes good, bottom line is it's got to taste good. If it tastes good,
Yeah.
then I want to share with people. That's pretty much what I want to do. So I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop being uh, like a YouTuber or on social media, but I want to also get into actual physical stuff that people can eat. So that's my goal. What about you? What are you doing?
Oh, well, I mean, to me, actually, it's a frustrating experience because as every platform wants to go short, literally with YouTubes and shorts and shit,
Mm-hmm.
it's all good for views. My views are higher there, but I don't like producing that content. I like producing long form YouTube. I mean, my
Do it.
goal is to sort of grow there, just because, like, yeah, and like that's when I talk to everyone about my content, I'm like, I start YouTube is my smallest platform, but I always start there because that's what makes me happiest. That's what I really want to work on, and then I can sort of break off from there for content to live everywhere else. And I think the outside projects, like, my goal isn't to be a host of everything, but I actually really enjoy it. And unfortunately, because of 2020, I had a lot of hosting projects that were filmed and got canned
Mm.
because it like didn't fit the new world that we live in. So hopefully some of that, and I just want to keep going, keep up with fucking Gen Z, you know.
Oh man, I can't. I don't even know what's happening. Like, there's so many social media platforms popping up left and right. It's just.
It's hard, and I do sort of feel like on an overall bigger picture too, sort of we can end on that, is like I've been in this a very long time. You have too, but you know, I've been on it from the traditional side, the TV side, and now through it all, starting food influencers, food creators, whatever we're going to call it on there. And I do feel like a responsibility to keep trying to pull it up. It's a gigantic space now. There's so many people in it, but there's so much that I see that I'm just like, ugh, again, you're doing this again. Everyone's doing the same shit. Like,
Mm.
to keep trying to do something different with it and represent it as a whole, I think it is honestly really important for me, because no one's going to remember me. Who cares? What's the difference? But I think for myself to have an impact
Right.
on this is something that I love. I love the Food Network growing up. I love that stuff growing up. You mentioned Man for Food. Like, that was my favorite show. That was the first food show I ever worked on. I was an unpaid PA on one episode of Man vs. Food. Like,
Wow.
all this stuff means something to me, and I want to just sort of help continue to shape it. Whether it's on my own content,
Mm.
that's amazing because I'm very lucky to do it on my own. Whether if it ends up me doing it somewhere else, maybe, who goes, you know, we'll see where it goes. But I think like that is important to me.
Well, that's good that you keeping all your options open. I mean, you do great work. So I mean, you have all this
Thank you.
experience. You've done, like, you're different because you've done traditional TV. Like most of us scrubs, like we haven't. Like, I don't know anything about anything. Like I'm still trying to learn lingos. Like I'm filming with you know, when I first filmed with Insider or Complex, I'm just like,
Mm.
and they're like, yo, hey, using all these lingos, like, I'm gonna use this and you're gonna do this B shot, and I'm like, ooh, fancy stuff. Like, what is all this?
But yeah, all right. I mean, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure you have more to eat or editors something
Oh
to
man,
do.
it's Texas
And you have a
is.
new house. I mean, you have so much to do.
Have you been to other cities in Texas?
Yeah, so I've done Austin a few times, just because of TV shows. I've been to San Antonio a few times, and I've been to Dallas a few times.
What I'm learning about Texas. This is my first long term stay here. This state is food freaking mecca, especially when it comes to anything to do with meat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating, like last week I ate at like four different barbecues. And one of them I woke up at 3 a.m. for and I waited in line for 4 hours. Um, this state is got so much stuff. Like, it's crazy. I'm actually really enjoying my time here. So I didn't know like if what you thought about it, but this state is at least for me right now. Like, I'm just, you know, loving the meats. I don't know if you can
Oh
actually
yeah,
be
I
a
mean,
vegetarian
well,
here.
what's funny is when I was in Austin, one of the videos, the last video I have to put together is my sort of like best of roundup breakfast tacos. So I ended up doing like two breakfast tacos in the mornings each morning. I was there, but like day four of it, I was like, I can't appreciate these anymore. I hate myself. Why did I
Oh
do
my
this to
gosh,
myself?
that reminds me of I took a trip to Mexico, and I went with my one of my friends. His name is Carlos. He took me around, and I remember like every day was a different taco, And I'm like, Carlos, what are we eating tomorrow? He's like, tacos. I'm like, so like, dude, we've been eating tacos for the last week and a half. He's like, but they're different tacos. I'm like, but and it's true. There's all these different tacos, and they always taste good. But I'm just like, that's another taco. But there's a bunch of other stuff too. But like every day there would be some form of taco, which is pretty creative, pretty ingenious. But it was a lot of tacos on that trip.
All right. If people want to follow you, what are all the social handles we could send them to?
You can just go to YouTube, Strictly Dumpling on YouTube, or Mike MikeXingChagen on Instagram, and then those should lead you to all the other hidden things if you dare to dig a little deeper.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, thanks for having me, man. So good to finally see you live. So
almost in real life.
Yeah, almost real life, but at least seeing you live instead of talking to me on Instagram, which is really really good to see. So happy to see you're doing good. You're looking good. So thanks for having me.